So um, it's just great that you're all here, you know? I mean, the morning temple, the morning Zoom thing is phenomenal. I mean, I just think, we never would have done it except for a global pandemic. And so now we have this thing that happens every day, and it's pretty great. Uh, but gathering in person is really, really special. So I'm going to thank you all for making the journey. It's not always easy for people to come all this way, to leave whatever it is that you've left behind to get here. Uh, so thank you. And just, it's just really great that you're all here. So a couple of things that I left behind, or that I left, or the condition from which I left Southern California yesterday is, did I turn off my mic? No, there it is. I guess it's okay. We're good. So one of my dogs, Clarky, the little, the one that you may have seen the picture of him licking my face on the PZI website, he got a foxtail. For those of you on the West Coast, I know what a foxtail is, right? It gets in, he got it into his gums, and it's a little tiny, well, they can be very small. This one was the size of a grain of rice, but they have barbs, and all the barbs face one way. So it gets into their mouth, into their eyes, and their ears, wherever, and then it just goes into the body, and it keeps just working its way through. So his whole face swelled up, and he has like 17 stitches in the side of his jaw right now to get this thing out. I wasn't sure I'd be able to come because our two dogs are quite a lot to handle, and especially when one of them is, got stitches and all this stuff. But we have a great babysitter, so the dogs love to go visit their babysitter, and so they're there, and my wife is able to handle it. So yay, but I still worry about him so much. It's just a little cute thing. I say little, but he's 70 pounds, but he's just little. He's little because the other one, Bella's 105 pounds, so uh, they're a handful. And then, we got this stuff happening at work. So my company makes software. That's what we do. We help companies make software. So we write it. We write code. I don't know if I have any coders in the room here, but think of it as very boring poetry, maybe. I don't know, something like that. And what's happening right now is, it's one of the things that's kind of rippling through our zeitgeist, if you will, of all the chaos that feels like it's in the world right now. We have AI coming, and it's really impacting our work, and it's really pretty scary, because right now it feels like superpowers. Like I can sit down in front of my computer and I can code like 10 times faster than I could before. I just put a rough draft of what I want into the code editor, and then I'd say, what do you think? And it just starts writing the code, and it just works a lot of the time. I have to go through and edit it, tweak it a little bit. So for now, I'm still an important part of the process, right? But we don't know how long that's going to be. And if I was ready to retire, I'd just be like, forget it, I'm out. But I'm not, and we have lots of people that work for us, and they're all kind of freaking out because they've spent whatever parts of their years, of their lives learning how to program, and we're just not clear what it's going to be. But it's also really thrilling. Like I kind of love disruption. I love kind of the chaos that it has, and so I'm very excited about coding. Right now it's fun again. It's really fun, despite the terror on the other side of it. So I pack up all my stuff, and I used to come in a Mustang, and I used to pack up whatever would fit in the Mustang. And now I have a Honda Odyssey. It's much bigger. I can put more stuff in it. So one of the things I like to do is I like to go to the beach and code at the beach. And so I have a big giant battery that can run my laptop for like ever and ever and ever. And I have a refrigerator in there. I've got everything, like a perfect little home. So I figure, coming to retreat, the dogs are okay. If I get a really good coding idea, I'll just stay up late, whatever it is. Right? So I pack up the van. I get my computer backpack. I put it in the van, and I head off down the road. And about 50 miles in, I realized I forgot my computer. And I was kind of freaked because I thought to myself, oh my, this is going to be, I'm going to be gone for 5 or 6 days. I don't think I've been without my computer for 5 or 6 days in a couple of decades. I mean, this has been really my professional life has been laptop, keyboard, wherever I go. So I just left it. I forgot it. And it's like, it's all right. I'll be okay. It'll be all right. I didn't really use it much last time I was here, but it'll be okay. But every like 50 miles or so for a while, my body would tense up and I'd be like, oh my God, where's the computer? It's like I needed that hit, you know. But what I think is just happening is the retreat just snagged me, got me early, you know. It just came and got me and took me here without the laptop, you know, which is kind of great. So the other thing that's been going on with me at home is I've been sitting with lots of koans from the Blue Cliff record, and currently I'm on the 43rd case. A monk asked Dongshan, when cold and heat come, how can we avoid them? Shan said, why don't you go to the place where there's no heat or cold? The monk said, what is the place where there's no heat and cold? Dongshan said, when it's cold, the cold kills you. When it's hot, the hot kills you. So the way I've been sitting with that for about a week now, and the rest of the stuff in the case, and one of the things that's kind of keeps coming back to me is whatever's happening, I can just let it have me, right? I can just let it have me. Whatever's happening is happening, and I don't have to try to. I may fight it. I may try to fight it, but I recognize that I'm doing something where I may be trying to hold things at bay. I can just remember. I just kind of think, you know, when it's cold, cold kills you. When you left your computer at home, the computer kills you, right? Kind of thing. And I think that's kind of. I think it's kind of useful while we're here. You know, you've all come a long way. And you've left things, you've changed, you've done something in your life to get yourself free to be here. And it would be great if you could just let this thing have you, right? Whatever is happening here, you can just let it have you. And we try to do things so that try to encourage that in ways like you don't really have to worry about time, because time is, where's time? Time's over there. Time handles time. You don't have to worry about it. And, you know, when the bell rings, you get up, you look at time, time tells you where to go. When it's over, you sit down and you just kind of do that, right? You just let it have you. It's not always easy, and I certainly struggle with it. And, you know, there's things that I do and things that I, like bringing my computer for one, and other things that I do that would try to somehow, I guess, maybe one part I'm skipping over here a little bit is like, what is the deal? Like, why is it that we don't, or we can struggle with letting what's happening happen? And I don't know that there's an answer that you need to come up with, but it's clearly something that I deal with, and imagine you do too. You know, what is it that we're doing? Why are we doing it? I don't know necessarily that you need an answer, because the answer is going to change. It's situational, whatever it is. But I think what's helpful is to notice that, oh, I'm doing it, right? So while you're here, you might notice yourself doing some things that are sort of getting in the way of letting what's happening happen. You might fiddle with the windows because you think it's too hot or too cold. So you might want to adjust the windows. Or you might notice that people are coughing and they're not covering their mouths, and that's not good. And yeah, right. If you're coughing, you should cover your mouth. Please do. But also there's, we're just, it seems like we're constantly looking for some way to go out of where we are and to focus on something else, you know. So just notice that. Let it have you. You've come all this way with all these wonderful people. You can just let it have you. So fall to me is, this time of year is always kind of very, very precious to me. And it has this sense of coming home or coming to someplace peaceful. It's often a time when, in older cultures where you would prepare, you'd take harvest, bring in the harvest, you'd stack the wood, you'd do all those things, and you'd bring your life in, and you might be preparing for those winter months when things turn maybe inside a little bit. And that's what it feels like to me. I grew up on the East Coast in New England, Massachusetts, and the fall colors, have that effect on me. And we have them here in these beautiful trees. I mean, that maple tree out there, those red leaves are just spectacular. And it's always had that kind of feel to me of coming in, bringing it in. When I was a kid, we heated with wood. It was during the OPEC oil crisis. And so it was, oil was like $800 a barrel or whatever it was. I don't remember. I was very young, but we had a giant potbelly stove in our living room. And as a family, we chopped wood. We cut wood. We'd get wood in 4-foot lengths. And my mom, who's all of, 5'0", out there with a big chainsaw cutting the wood, and we're splitting the wood and carrying the wood. And I was talking to my mom on the way up here. It's kind of what reminds me of this. Usually I have a habit when I'm on my way to retreat, I call my mom. Some of you have seen my mom in the morning Zooms and stuff. So you've seen her face. So we talked a little bit about, I said, did I ever complain as a child about having to do with wood? Because let me tell you, chores, like, I complained. I was a complainer and a whiner. I didn't want to do really anything. Like, I suppose most kids, but I remember being really bad. And she said, no, I don't remember that you ever being, we had to, every day, come home from school, you had to stack the wood. Otherwise, you'd freeze that night. Those were the options. And so we stack wood. On the weekends, we'd go out into the woods and drag trees out of the woods and cut the wood and split the wood and bring it into the house. And then in the morning when you woke up, if you were the first one up, it was freezing. Like, there'd be ice in the sink. So first person would have to go down and light the stove and get it going. And we also heated with, we used a mixture of coal and wood. And sometimes that potbelly stove would get so hot it would glow orange. That was a lot of work, but I just have such incredible, warm memories of that time. Doing it as a family, as a community, kind of. We extended family. If somebody had a big load of wood they got delivered, we'd all go and help cut it up and get it ready for the winter. So that's always been the feel for me in this time. And then even after I left, I would often go home to my mom's house in the fall. And I'd sit and I'd chop wood sometimes just for fun. They have it all chopped now. They don't really need it done, but I would chop wood for fun sometimes. And sit around the fire. And I'd sit out on the deck in the front of my mom's house. She had this great front porch that looked out across the street to this forest of maple and oak and all these different trees. and just look at all the colors. And a couple years ago, I guess, oh gosh, a few years now, my mom's husband, Paul, he got brain cancer. He had a brain tumor. And it was a pretty interesting time. He, sometimes he was really mean. Like I remember once, eating food was really hard for him because his taste buds were all messed up, and it was hard to communicate. He didn't have his speech very well, but he loved to eat. And he heard that I was going to make hamburgers, and he was so excited that I was going to make hamburgers. And I made the hamburgers, and I gave it to him. He took one bite, and he said, "This is horrible. How could you do this? You ruined it." And he just refused to eat, right? But other times it was like he was into poetry, and I don't know if my mic's off or not. He was into poetry, and he liked to read poetry. So he loved Dylan Thomas, and he would read, Dylan Thomas poems, but he couldn't really speak anymore. Like he had trouble saying the words. Do not go softly into this dark night. He wouldn't really be able to say it, but it would just come out, and it's just this emotion, just this pouring of emotion. And I just remember sitting listening to this, just being so incredibly moved, like it had him, like what was happening to him. There was not what's happening in his brain just put him in a place for what was happening was everything that was happening. There wasn't, hamburger's terrible, right? There was nothing else. Dylan Thomas weeping, crying, trying to read a Dylan Thomas poem. And so we would sit out on the front porch, and he didn't do a lot, so we'd sit there for hours and we'd just watch what was happening, And a big gust of wind would come along, and the trees would wave, and they'd release a bunch of leaves, and they'd all come down. And he would just gasp in amazement. He'd just be like, "Oh, did you see that?" I said, "Yeah." And he always said the same thing. He always said, "Amazing, amazing." And then we'd sit, and he would say, "All of those leaves and all of those trees are going to come down. It's amazing." Or a cardinal would fly by, just a flash of red, and he would say, "Did you see that?" I would say, "Yeah, it's a cardinal." And he would just say, "Amazing." And then the day before I was getting ready to leave, we're sitting out there, and he said to me, "So, are you going to leave tomorrow?" I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Well, who's going to sit out here with me?" I said, "Well, Mom's here. She's going to sit out, but she'll be here." It's like, "Oh, right, yeah, right. That's good. That's good. Well, I'm going to miss you. I'm going to miss you too." But there was something about that whole thing where he was just there, and I was there with him. And I just really, really treasure that about that time, And I kind of get that sense every time fall comes around now. I get that sense of sitting with Paul on the front porch. And just letting him have his sickness, sitting with all the uncertainty and what was going to happen, and with the fall leaves falling down and the cardinals flying by. And I get some of that sense here too, like when we come together like this, and suddenly, there's an opportunity to see things and to be with things in a way that sometimes can be harder when we're on our own. And that's what I treasure about being here with all of you. So in that case, we're also introduced to Dongshan's 5 ranks, which I also love, especially the 5th one. And I really like, I think it's John and Joan's translation of this. It kind of has the same feel for me. Not deciding if it is or it isn't. Do you have the courage to be at peace with it? Everyone wants to leave the endless changes. But when we finish bending and fitting our lives, we come and sit by the fire. That feels a lot like what we do here, doesn't it? It feels a lot like what humans have been doing for as long as there's been fire. So here we are with another chance to just let it have you. Just let it have you. Thank you.